Hello, everyone. Just playing this today in honor of
Greg Lake,
the great Greg Lake, who has passed away. Who's the singer of this great song, which is many people's favorite Christmas song.
It's a good one. And he wrote it too. It's an original.
Yeah, he wrote it as well. So yeah, that would be Father. I Believe in Father Christmas by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, another great musician gone. This year's been hideous. Yeah, this year's been hideous. I think that we're in for a lot more of those kind of years. I think it's the era of musicians.
It is.
They're all just getting old at the same time. They were all roughly the same age. The ones that came out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, mainly 60s and 70s.
And ironically, on the anniversary of John Lennon being assassinated, which is always a day where there's like a pall over the music industry because of the loss of somebody, as impactful as John Lennon. But Russ, the thing is, it's like I think most people know Greg Lake from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Like I got to know, like my influence with him was going back even further. The first couple albums, he was the lead singer of King Crimson.
Right.
The Genesis, the first book of the Bible of progressive rock is in the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson, and Greg Lake was the lead vocalist. And some of the songs there, I mean, his voice was incredible.
Yeah, he had the voice of a generation. That's what I said on Twitter. I really believe it. He really was it was a calm, sort of soothing voice. In concert, he had a very easy, and I never got to see them live. That's my one big, I've always seen, I have bootleg recordings, I've got all these things, but the one thing about Greg Lake is in concert, he had a real closeness to the audience. You could see it. It was genuine. But I'll tell you about something that's sort of like lost in MTV. And I tweeted to them because I don't think MTV plays enough of their archive stuff for people like our age and maybe 10 years younger. I don't think they really activate enough of that. I think they're too focused on today. And here's an example. So back in the day, the height of when Asia was really hot, something happened to John Wetton, and Greg Lake had to actually step in.
Oh, yeah.
It was a throat problem.
Okay. This was the big, it was a big deal.
Asia, they called it.
Asia concert.
And it was the first satellite concert, I believe.
Right, it was. It was the first live concert, I think, on MTV. It was a big deal. Asia was very much an MTV band. They came out at that time. Yep. That happened. So Greg Lake had to learn everything like in a month. It was like a crazy,
maybe even less.
Yeah, it was a crazy short amount of time.
It was a couple weeks.
But these guys had interchange for each other because they're also interchanged in King Crimson.
I mean, Carl Palmer's the drummer, right? I mean, they all worked together.
Lake were both singers in King Crimson as well.
Right. So. Yeah, and they all worked together in studio. They all had an association.
Yeah,
they did.
Wetton took over for Greg Lake. I think he was the second singer, I believe.
Yeah, and it was a great show. The Asia show was a great show.
Yeah,
it was interesting with Lake. I used to have it on cassette, but I dumped all my cassettes, so I don't know if I can find it anywhere. But sometimes you can find these shows online.
I have Asia on cassette, but like the thing where you put your box up against the TV and record it. I have that. Yeah, I have that kind of recording. I mean, it's definitely out there on. I think it's on YouTube now, even.
Yeah, I figured it might be, but it's an amazing crossover, right? And that's something where back then satellite was new. They did it. They killed it. What's the time difference? I think we watched it like
it was 9 or 10 hours early.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big achievement for MTV, and I don't think they pushed those kinds of things enough.
It was. I think it was the second big thing. I think Live Aid was the first. If I remember right. Because the funny thing about Live Aid was I was coming back from Europe the day of Live Aid. I was in the sky, like literally cross paths, with Phil Collins in the air. We were jokingly saying, but I had just done a tour of Europe for 3 weeks playing music over in Europe, and I was coming back during that during Live Aid. Got home and I
was at Live Aid. We left New York at like 3 a.m. we stopped. This one guy had a great idea. He was a store manager. He said, let's go to a bagel store and just load up on bagels. And he bought $75 worth of bagels, and they threw it in a hefty bag, right? And basically, so on the drive, we would just get bagels thrown into our car, and we were surviving on that. And so we drove from New York to Philly. We got into RFK at about 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock, something like that. And it started from Wembley first on satellite, and it was great. It was an unbelievable day. The part that always gets people mad at me is I look at things and I plan. And so my biggest fear was 100,000 people. How am I going to go to the bathroom? Because I'm going to have to go, and I'm going to have to go number 2, and will there be toilet paper? So based on this, I looked at the list, and the band that I chose to go during was U2. Because U2 was a fairly new band. Yeah. I knew them, but I said, hey, these are other bands I don't want to miss. And so I listened to YouTube at Live Aid in the bathroom. I did.
Oh, you would have been better off going during Led Zeppelin, because they didn't play very well that day.
I thought it was good. I disagree. I still have that on. I burnt that the CD. I disagree. I had the DVD of it. I like it.
One last thing about Greg Lake, and anybody who can go on YouTube, there is a BBC series about progressive rock. I think I've sent you the link to this before, Ak and Russ. And there was an interview about King Crimson when they first started out. Greg Lake singing lead vocals, and they opened up. Talk about a weird billing. They opened up for the Rolling Stones in Hyde Park in London.
Wow!
And they played in the Court of the Crimson King and 21st Century Schizoid Man, and the fans were like awestruck and stunned at how because it was a complete departure from the blues rock of the Stones. And one of the band members of King Crimson said, the silence was eerie, and we loved it. And he starts clapping because it was just like that they wanted to shock people. And
I think for the younger viewers too, we should tell people, like, having a band of just 3 guys meant that a lot fell on the shoulders of Keith Emerson. But Lake did play guitar, and he did play some bass. Yeah. And so depending on the song, he would do that. So I think, like, in the beginning, that's real guitar. So that's Greg Lake.
And he was a very, very good acoustic guitar player. Yes. And if you listen to I Believe in Father Christmas, that's him playing.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely him.
So I think we should point that out too. That's all.
I did get to see Emerson, Lake, and Powell play live.
Yeah, I had that CD. That CD is actually not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. And I did get to see that show, which was a lot of fun. I think I saw. Didn't they put out a couple of albums? I think I saw their second album, maybe. But
they probably have like 10
they have one main album, obviously, but they did a bunch of things after that. But
Brain Salad Surgery is the one that we all sort of dropped our jaws with and said, "Wow, this is and welcome to the show." Like, we still hear that in commercials. Like,
it's played at every hockey arena. I mean,
Carnival 9,
Yeah, Carnival 9. Welcome back, my friends. The show never ends. You'll see that at every hockey arena.
Yes.
One of my favorite songs for people to come out for teams to come out for is the "Welcome Back, My Friends." The show never ends. I always thought it was cool. And "Welcome to the Machine" by Pink Floyd. I always like that one. When teams come out to that too. Remember the Flyers coming out to "Welcome to the Machine" one time, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. That was a long time ago. So, and by the way, for those music people out there, and a lot of you are music people, there's a great talk about documentaries. Have you guys seen any of this? It's on PBS called Sound Breaking. No. This is the commercial for it. You really can't see it, but it's called Sound Breaking. And it's on the PBS app, actually.
Okay.
It's by far my favorite music documentary I've ever seen. It goes through the art of recording, painting with sounds, the human instrument, going electric, 4 on the floor. These are the names of the thing, and it has the best musician. Like, it has just the most incredible thing. Everything from George Martin actually is started working on this before he passed away, and this whole thing is just so it's produced by him. There's incredible moments from the Beatles in it that I've never seen before. There's incredible stuff from Radiohead recording stuff. There's stuff down, from, there's a great, like, Roger Waters is interviewed throughout it. And he, you don't often see him interviewed and things like this. And he comes out and says, when the Pink Floyd was touring at small bars when Sgt. Pepper came out, and he talks about they were driving in this big van and they had pulled off the highway, and they all sit there and listen to Sgt. Pepper being played, and he looked at like, what the that's what they said to each other, as they just said, man, what now? Like, what's, and he said, that just that has an indelible meaning to Pink Floyd forever. And just through it gets into blues singing. The one I'm watching now is just all about singers.
Yeah, I would fast forward through the blues stuff. That's just me.
It's the history of recording of the Spectre, the sound and all that stuff. There's crazy stuff in this. Absolutely. Yeah. It's called, you got to watch it.
Like if they start playing This Land Is Your Land, I'm fast forward.
No. It's none of that. It's none of that. It's
not a big fan of Woody Guthrie, huh?
No, but this is, you have to, I mean, I'm telling you guys, you will not be upset. It's called Sound Breaking. You can download it on iTunes too.
I'll check it out. I'm a sucker for a good musical documentary.
Oh my gosh, Mike, you're gonna love this. It's very technical, I have to say. So if you're a musician at all, it gets into like how Rumors was recorded. There's a whole thing about Rumors of Fleetwood Mac's Rumors being recorded. It's just
Dave,
when they weren't fighting and dating and
yeah. Like Lindsey Buckingham's on there, talks about it. I imagine some of the things are from other documentaries because some of them are old.
Because I'll tell you, Dave Grohl has done. He did a documentary called Sound City, and he did a documentary series for HBO. And it wasn't just Foo Fighters music; it was.
Right. I never watched that. I should watch that.
It was really great. So that's another one you should check out. But let's.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing about the Eurythmics. It's just crazy. I mean, it's just things that. Of all the different kinds of bands, the 80s, how it's just you'll love it. You guys will love it, and it gets into progressive rock as well. After the first couple things, it talks about the evolution of recording process itself, but then it gets into just how it's just amazing. It really is. It's hard to explain, but if you're a musician, you'll just absolutely flip over it. And if you're just a person who loves music, you'll flip over it as well. But it's technical. I'm loving it because it goes through a lot of stuff. Like I went through the whole thing. Like I did my first album on tape, on full tape, 24-inch tape, or if we had to change something, they spliced the tape and they actually cut the tape physically in front of you to Pro Tools where you just move things around and there's none. So and there's still people who cut tape and there's still people that do both. So it's really interesting how the whole thing goes on. So let's start the show. But there you have it, and we have a lot to talk about today. Let's go. So I don't have a bell, but I'm gonna. No, my bell's.
Don't worry, we're keeping this all in.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. All right. You guys will listen to music whether you want to or not. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, December 8th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey BuzzCast on hockeybuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings of the hockey world. And today, a little bit of Greg Lake in the beginning, and a lot of there's nothing brings the house down like a good trademark violation. There's nothing. You guys, we know that you guys love to talk hockey, and we know, but more than hockey, you love to talk trademark violations.
Yeah.
Just like yesterday, you love to talk, legal buyout contract decisions. So Russ is wearing a jersey that could be worth a lot someday, because who knows now?
Is it worth a lot because it has my BO on it, or is it?
Man, Russ, you and your bodily functions have dominated the first half hour of this show.
Really have.
The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has rejected the Vegas Golden Knights trademark application. Something you thought they might have done before they announced the name. But anyway, but maybe not. So,
well, that could be why there's no name on this hoodie. There's just a logo.
Yeah, they're right. There's just a logo. We are looking. I mean, and of course, there's it's a trademark pending. The registered mark is the Golden Knights, the College of St. Rose, stylized in letters with a design element for, in relevant part, entertainment services in the form of intercollegiate sports exhibitions. I don't see how that plays into this. Like, I'm totally baffled, like I said, by this. I am not a lawyer. I don't love lawyers. I mean, I realize that lawyers have to exist in this world.
There's a whole art form to these trademarks.
Yeah.
There's one way to get out of it. The easy way to get out of it is ask the price from that college who's clearly looking for money, what they're looking for, and meet their demand.
Right.
Yeah, but this was the whole reason why they didn't choose the Knights with the London Knights, because Vegas would have probably had to pay some sort of fee to London to be able to use that name. The whole purpose of the Golden Knights, I mean, first it came up with the Army parachute team is called the Golden Knights, and now a college near Albany, New York, is the one that's, they're the ones who have the trademark. So, for everything that's coming from the NHL, that's coming from the Vegas franchises, that they're not going to change, and that there's, this will be handled legally. But this,
yeah, I don't think they will change. And this is more about, because reading this,
I'll tell you the biggest trademark win in the history of our lifetimes was when the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, sued the WWF, the wrestling league, because they used to be the WWF, and then they wanted to shorten it, so they made it the WWF, and then they got sued by the World Wildlife Fund, and then they became the WWE, and that was a big victory for, World Wildlife Fund's big, but they're not that big.
Right. Yeah, no, they aren't, but that was a huge victory. All right, so here's some fun facts of this. This sort of tells you what this is all about. In this case, the mark sharing the common wording Golden Knights and the additional wording does not change the overall commercial impression of the marks. The wording the College of St. Rose in the register's marks is presenting in such a manner that consumers encountering the mark are likely to read it as a tagline. Consumers will focus on the wording Golden Knights. Accordingly, the examining attorney finds the marks are identical in part, sharing most of their dominant and source identifying portions, and are confusingly similar when compared in their entireties. The goods and services the parties need to be identical or even competitive to find a likelihood of confusion. And that's from an old thing. And it says here, college sports and professional sports are similar in nature, both often televised, played in large arenas for the entertainment of the same class of consumers. For example, see the attached screenshots demonstrating. And this is incredible stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a reach. I'll tell you something similarly. I got a tweet the other day, because I have Sportsology trademarked, and there is a Sportsology science exhibit, and it's been around for years, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think anybody goes to that exhibit looking for my website, and people don't go to my website looking for that exhibit because, hey, we're a sports website. Yes, that is sports, but we do, we do feature articles and we have podcasts. This is, to me, those two things are different. So because somebody said, hey, why don't you, take care of this? And I'm like, I'm not going to sue these guys. It's totally different. And I really think the college is in the wrong here, because I don't see where the overlap is. I really don't.
No, and we're not talking about a college that, is usually popular. Like, we're not talking about
sports college. They're not even a big sports college.
College of St. Rose, and so they do have a chance to respond to this and prove that that this is basically just a first volley by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And this is these people who run these. I mean, I was in a band for a while called Sojourn, and that band was pretty popular, and we got signed to a record label. But right after we got signed, there was another Sojourn that came out of the woodwork, because that's not a crazy name to have another band. If we figured there were other bands called that, and this band was like a Christian rock band that was defunct, and they contacted us and they wanted, we're like, oh, you guys playing anymore? And we're like, no. And they're cool, no problem, you can take it. And then a week later, we got a letter from their lawyer saying, no, you can't. I talked to one of the guys who was totally cool, and then suddenly they realized there was money to be made.
Yes.
And they wanted I forget what it was, $50,000 or something like that. And we changed our name. And it was just
this is only about money. This whole conversation we're having, only about money. My challenge, if I were the trademark lawyer, the judge, or it's not really a judge, it's really trademark office, right? If I were in that office, I would sort of look at the website for this college and see if they even have a store that even sells anything.
Well, let's look and see. Let's see what we can find here. College.
Their website for their athletic team is called GoGoldenKnights.com.
Okay. So let's see what they sell.
Oh, I will do that. Golden. It's fun to watch people.
And all we're trying to use is common sense. We aren't trademark lawyers, so
Right. I mean, so I'm looking at the website now. I bring it up, but it probably won't work. So I don't see this as being a real a real big problem. All right, let me see if this works. I'll just throw it up here and see what happens. All right, so screen share this. Fine, entire screen. Share the entire screen. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
All right, so you guys see this at all?
I do see it.
Okay, hold on. So I'm gonna. I know it's probably it's a dream.
Oh, that was Mike holding it up. That's what I saw.
It's in a dream within a dream. Is my thing coming up at all?
No.
No.
Okay, no. Okay, so all right, Mike, you can show everybody then what's going on. Sorry, mine's ridiculous. I don't know what's on. All right, so that's the website. But go down, scroll down a little bit. I'll show you what I think is interesting. So let me stop.
Fan shop. I'll look at the fan shop.
Yeah, look at the fan shop.
Right. So, so go.
And then the other thing, Mike, do you see a tickets for sale thing on their site? Like, is there a thing, get tickets?
There was.
There was? Okay. Because
here is, okay, and if this is the funny thing, on the first 5 things on there, it has nothing about Golden Knights. It has St. Rose as the...
Yeah. See, that's what they're pushing is St. Rose. This is... I think the hockey team will win this. I do.
Here's the first one with Golden Knights. It's a T-shirt.
Right.
So, and that's the logo is this, so essentially
the logo is SR.
It looks kind of like this, right? So
right. So it's not a logo problem; it's a name problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that. But
right.
Is anybody really confusing these? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I mean no one's confusing these. Where is that? Where is the college even located?
Albany, New York.
All right. So I'm sure they have a hockey team.
The home of all political corruption.
Right. That's
now what they could make them change is the color scheme. They might come back and say, your color scheme is still similar. Maybe you need to change the color scheme slightly,
like from black and gold to blue and gold or something like that.
Right. Or black and gold to black and copper or something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that could cause confusion if there even was. None of us even knew this place existed. Nobody's ever heard of this school. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm throwing it out there that, like I said before, that certain things like animals and knights and things like like the jaguars. No one can. There's how many jaguars are there, or how many how many wildcats? How many high schools are called the Wildcats? Just things like that, or how many colleges? I mean, I was doing the college pool one year, and there were 6 colleges or something like that in the field of 64 that were called the Wildcats.
Well, believe me, there's a lot of high schools around the country that have had to change their name because of the whole political correct movement. Local high school in the Buffalo area changed it from Redskins.
Well, they should. I'm sorry. Maybe this is where our political differences aside, but I do believe that the Redskins is a ridiculous name for a team out there.
I've looked it up, right? And when they created the name, it was not a slur, and they didn't do it to slur anybody either. So I'm sort of in the middle of that fight for that one. For some of the other ones, like with the Indians and Chief Wahoo, I think the Indians have done sort of the right thing by not showing Chief Wahoo as much, but they shouldn't have to change the name of the Indians because it's not like they're really denigrating anybody. Chief Wahoo, I can understand where that may be bothersome and maybe, conveyed that way where it's like, hey, this is a real slur. So they've sort of, you don't see much of Chief Wahoo anymore, right, Mike, when you're watching a game and stuff?
No.
So they've buried Chief Wahoo, and I think that's a good thing. So I think there's different thoughts on it, but if it's really bad, I'm definitely against it. But I looked up the Redskins and the meaning of the name, and you could find as many people and Indian reservations that like it and don't like it. Like it is split.
Yeah, I mean, the black. I don't know. It's hard to imagine it was never derogatory. That's all I just don't understand.
The Blackhawks. Go look up the name. The Chicago.
Yeah, the Blackhawks is different than Redskins. Like Redskins is.
That's why I never understood. I never
had a problem with Blackhawks because I know the history behind that, right? So,
but that's why I never understood the whole controversy about North Dakota, because the Sioux Nation, it is an Indian nation. The fighting, just because you call them the Fighting Sioux, I mean, I'm not a member of the Sioux Nation, so it's not up to me whether I'm being offended or not. But I didn't think that was a.
But they did change it.
But they did change it. Now it's just
changed it, but and part of that had to do with this whole, like, I don't know if you follow the whole Lewis and Clark, when they went out there, they encountered the Sioux, and the Sioux they had some pretty good fights with them. I mean, most of the Indians were nice to Lewis and Clark across the way, and they probably shouldn't have been in retrospect, but they were. Right. And but most of them were nice to Lewis and Clark, and the Sioux, some of them fought back. From what I understand, I'm not that great on my history with this kind of stuff, so I apologize if I'm offending.
Yeah, we don't hear Lewis and Clark enough anymore. So let's talk hockey.
It's by far, before that, it's by far the best documentary Ken Burns has ever made. If you want to watch a great documentary on Amazon, it's free. Is the Lewis and Clark documentary by Ken Burns is
Ken Burns will change the story to fit his own narrative. Forget it.
Maybe he does, but it's an unbelievable documentary. So you have
Don't tell me he doesn't, Mike. You've watched the baseball.
Yeah, no comment. I respect Ken Burns as a historian, as a filmmaker.
I respect him. I'm just telling you that's his slant. He has his slant.
Oh, yes. He has his agendas, and he makes sure that he points things in the right direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm
not saying he does a bad job, but I'm saying there is a Ken Burns slant.
I didn't need to know that Mario Cuomo played baseball because he was backing Mario Cuomo for a presidential run when he was making the baseball miniseries or the baseball documentary series. So
here's the NHL's official response. I can read it really quickly to this, and we can end this thing. We're currently reviewing the trademark office letter, and we'll prepare a detailed response demonstrating why we continue to strongly believe the Vegas Golden Knights mark should be registered in coexistence with a college registration, just as a number of other nicknames currently coexist in other professional and college sports, particularly where there's no overlap as to the sport for which the nickname is being used. That response is not due until June 7th, 2017. So they've got a lot of time here.
They really do.
We consider this a routine matter, and it is not our intention to reconsider the name or logo of the franchise. We fully intend to proceed as originally planned, relying on our common law trademark rights as well as our state trademark registrations while we work through the process of addressing the question raised in the federal application. So the NHL does not intend to change anything.
And nor should they.
Unless I'm mistaken, that date that you just mentioned, June 20th, that's at the expansion draft.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, because that's when they would show a jersey and.
Right. Yeah. That's the day that the.
No, but I think the June 7th. No, the June 7th date though that they have on here is I mentioned June 7th is
June 20th. Okay.
No, it's June 7th. Is
June 7th. Okay.
Is I guess would be 6 months from when this was brought back, right? December 7th. So I think that's why you're looking at that, right, or something like that. Yeah. So they have 6 months to respond essentially. Now, someone did bring up that St. Rose College has a $9 million deficit and just cut $340,000 in athletic scholarships.
Bingo.
So, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's where we're gonna go with this. I don't know. I think they don't have a hockey team though, so it's kind of strange.
I don't think the NHL is gonna lose. I don't.
No. But here's an interesting. The NHL audience is the richest audience among all major professional sports at 33.3% of its viewers making more than $100,000 a year. How about that?
Well, but here's the thing. All right, so that's a little skewed because
way to go, guys.
Here's the thing, though. So they have a smaller audience than, let's say, Major League Baseball, right? So when you have a smaller group and then the number is high, then it really is going to look ridiculously high when, like, the NFL is the biggest, right? So they probably have more people. I bet you the NFL is very close to having the same amount of people that make $100,000 that watch the NFL. It's just that they have a lot of others mixed in that are lower income.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
That would lower the percentage. It's math, Eck.
Right. So it is math. Now, Kerry Ramo, Mike.
Yes.
That's the latest on Kerry Ramo. He is officially a Maple Leaf now?
Well, no. Kerry Ramo has signed a PTO, professional tryout contract. He played last night his first game since February when he tore an ACL. He made 33 saves, but looked rusty on a couple of the goals in a 3-2 loss to the Utica Comets. I'm sure that they're on a 4-game road trip. He's probably going to get another start, maybe 2, before. But I think what's going on here, like I was saying before we started the show, the Leafs have a 5-game homestand after Saturday when they play in Boston. They have a 5-game homestand. And Mike Babcock indicated he's going to go heavily with Frederik Andersen. What I think that means is since there's no travel, he's going to play almost every game.
Okay, so he's playing 5 games. So this gives Ramo 4 games in the, let's say, in the A, maybe 5 games in the A, because they really only play once during the week and on weekends.
Right.
So, and then they're going to know what they have.
Right.
If Ramo doesn't look fantastic, they're gonna have to make Enroth their backup or Bebo again.
I think. Well, I think what happens is because right now Enroth is in limbo, and I wouldn't doubt that his agent's probably fanning the Swedish league and the KHL and every other league in Europe for position. But the thing is, he's making $750,000 on a one-way contract, and if he doesn't get anything close to that, why would you? I would sit there and collect my money.
except he's not playing. So here's the odd part about this whole thing, Eck. While they're getting the rust off of Ramo to see what he has, they're adding rust to Enroth.
Yeah. Right. They are.
They should send Enroth to their ECHL affiliate so he could play.
No, they have a young goaltender down there that they want to play. Right now the Marlies have 4 goaltenders, but the precedent here, or their priority.
Go to a temp agency is what they need to do. Like they're at the point where they just need to get.
Well, hey,
he needs to play. Enroth needs to play because there's a chance he's still going to be a Leaf. Because unless everything breaks perfectly, he's still going to be a Leaf.
I do think Russ is right in the respect that they need to keep him in the loop. But what I think is going to happen here is, I'm sure Enroth is probably looking for an opportunity somewhere, and if he finds it, then his contract will be terminated. But they're going to have to make a decision rather quickly about Ramo. And if he's not healthy, it's supposedly Lou Lamoriello had Ramo all along as the guy he wanted to be the number 2, but he wasn't going to be healthy enough, so they signed Enroth as a stopgap measure.
Right. But let's say he pulls a muscle. Ramo pulls a muscle. Then what are the Leafs going to do?
Yeah,
I think they're going back to Enroth. I really do.
See, that's the part that a lot of people aren't talking about is everybody's focused on Ramo, but it's not a guarantee that Enroth is gone.
Well, the funny thing is, and I heard an interesting theory, and I sort of agree with it from Jamie McClendon from TSN, who was talking about this. He says he thinks that this is all just a grand diversion. That basically what's going on here is that Mike Babcock he's making a big deal about the backup goaltender when the backup goaltender has only played 4 games to mask the fact that the real problem with the Leafs right now is their defense is hideous.
Okay,
I don't think it's a grand diversion. I disagree with that one.
There may be something to that, but I will tell you this. I saw the Mike Babcock comments as to being asked about being in last place, and he said he wouldn't answer that. And and this is the part of Mike Babcock that Eck and I talked about last year when all of this was going on, that he would sort of be in defiance and almost in disbelief that he is coaching a team that is in last place. And so, he's not willing to even accept it publicly that he is coaching a last place team. Instead, he tried to glaze that over and say, well, even on the great Red Wings teams, we would, play day by day and it would eventually get better and everything's going to get better and kumbaya and there's rainbows and unicorns. But that's not going to be the case here.
Well, what Babcock has done throughout the season, and he's basically dividing up the season into 5-game blocks. And he says if we get he said this yesterday, if we get 6 points in each 5-game block, we're golden.
Yes.
Then you're at a 600 600 record, and that would be making the playoffs. The problem is this team is not good enough to win 6 points in every 5-game block.
Right.
But the amount of games played in the season is not divisible by 5. So what's he going to do about that? How's he going to figure this out?
Well, this is Mike Babcock math, Eck.
He's going to have a 2-game block at the end that'll be like a bonus.
I would like a coach to come out and say we're dividing the season into 82 blocks.
Now, what will happen is at the end of the season, after his 6-game blocks, those last 2 blocks will be worth 4.5 points each.
Right. Those blocks will be cool. The weird thing about that is those blocks will mean nothing. Because
I'm gonna write about this today. The thing is, and then I understand that the Maple Leaf fan base is desperate for this team to be consequential.
We're very aware of that. I mean, that's
right. But it will be better for this team in the long run if they finish in last in the Eastern Conference again. You get yourself another top 5 pick. You probably get yourself a defenseman who you probably are not going to be able to get through free agency, may not be able to get through trade unless you give up an asset. You could get a Liljegren. You could get one of these top 2 or 3 defensemen in this draft who maybe they won't step in a year, but it'll take a couple years. But you're not going to get the quality of a player drafting 10th or 15th. You're going to get that drafting in the top 5, even if this draft is not good. So suck it up for one more year, Leafs fans. I'm
gonna trademark bad blocks, and I'm gonna market that. And basically, you'll have a 6 or 7, empty shelves on your house, and these blocks will fit into them. and then every time the Leafs win or lose, you'll have like a W and the Leafs logo and an L and the Leafs, and you'll be able to turn it around and you'll be able to keep track.
It's perfect. Perfect.
Bab blocks. Yeah.
So the people who have invented Bab socks are going to be inventing Bab blocks.
Yeah.
Bab blocks. I love it. Yeah. It's let's get the marketing team on it. I'll call upstairs the Hockey Buzz marketing team and we'll get them.
Captain EO.
Right. All right. Moving on. I just throw this out there, Mike. While I agree that it's better for every team to probably finish in last place overall, who's not going to win the Stanley Cup, I just think that I cannot go down that road again with that team now.
Okay, right. 25 games in the factor.
They're 3 points out of a playoff spot. That's all I want to say. It's
no, not 3 points.
They're
6 points.
6 points out of a playoff spot. That's
okay. 25 games into the season, arguably one of the more entertaining teams in the league. Toronto, Austin Matthews, Marner, young players, a good goaltender who after a bad first month has played really well, and they're still in last.
Yeah, but if they're not,
this is a better last.
A better last.
Yes.
It's a better last, and I just know
the Toronto fan base can be entertained by the team and still finish in last.
Sorry,
you can have your cake and eat it too, folks.
Can have your cake.
You're still eating last place cake.
Right.
It's like saying you can have your cake and step on it, Mike, is what it's saying. I think it's like completely I don't know. To me, they are one of the more entertaining teams because they're still trying to win, and that is helping. But if they stop trying to win, then no, they are not one of the most entertaining teams.
I'm not advocating them stopping to try to win.
I know, and I just can't go down this road.
Laying down and saying, "Take me, I'm yours." I'm just saying that this team, there's not.
But the thing is, if you end up with the same result, here's the team trying to not come in last place. Here's them trying to be in last place, and so far this year, compared to last year, they've intersected. They're at the same intersection.
Okay.
I mean, they just are. Like, it's just.
Well, no, I agree with you. But
the point total may be different, but the result is the same.
Yeah, and the thing is that you have a bunch of 19 and 20-year-old kids learning and making mistakes in the league, and more than likely this team is going to be better in the second half as they gain experience. But there's a possibility by that time they will be so far out of the race in the Eastern Conference. Now this homestand that they're going to have is going to be pretty big because 5 games, they're now 8-4 at home so far this year. But then they go on the road for a month, and they've won 2 games on the road.
Let's keep an eye on these next 5 blocks. Let's do that.
Yes, and let's call the show Bad Blocking, okay? That's our show title. Okay, so last year in the 2015 and 16 season, 22.36% of this happened. What do you think that is?
Say that again?
Last year in the 2015-16 season, the NHL season, the entire year, 22.36% of the time something happened. What was that?
Mike made a Phil Kessel hot dog joke.
Yeah, right. No, we talked about the Leafs in the BuzzCast. No, that's not the answer. The answer for the Leafs in the BuzzCast would be way higher than that. Way higher than that. No, what that is a game went into overtime in the NHL. So 22.36% last year. The 14-15, it was 24.88. In the 13-14, it was 24.96. People were thinking that this was heading down. This is heading down in a good direction, right? And of course, the way this stretches over the course of the season is towards the end of the year, many more games do go into overtime because teams are trying to make sure that they have points. And you do see teams stopping to play for the last half of the game.
A member of my family will definitely have the stats or the text to show that the Flyers percentage in going into overtime is much higher.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, it feels like it is. Right. So, all right. Yes. No, that because we're never home. Right. I got you. All right. So in 2016-17, so far, and we're only now 25 games in, as we just talked about at length, 26.414% of the games have gone overtime. So that is crazy because in the past seasons, in this point of the year, usually we're around like 18 or 16%. So, and then at the end of the year, you get higher. So you end up with 22.36. We are already at 26.14. We're going to get higher than that. So that means that there have been 103 overtime games and 394 total games played. Okay. which and this comes right off of Reddit Hockey Day. Somebody did the work on this, and I appreciate it. Did the work on this.
Good work.
11, basically that's 11 overtime games per week, often several in the same night. So what ends up with this, extra points mean tighter standings, like he said, and we get a conference that's all being at or above 500.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think of this? I mean, this is
a dangerous thing. This is, again, for the Flyers fans, and this is, I don't want to pour cold water on the 6-game winning streak, but if you go and look at the amount of games that the Flyers have played in overtime, they're not clean 2-point wins. They're 2 points for them, 1 point for the opposition. At some point, that is going to hurt them. It's going to start showing up in a bad way because there are going to be teams behind them that play them, still get a point, and then beat somebody else for 2 points and eventually move ahead of them in the standings.
Yeah. I mean, this gets into the whole thing that I have said many times, and I heard. I think
Pierre, winner take all. It really should be.
You either need that or you need the 3 points for a regulation win, which I think is
one or the other.
And Pierre LeBrun's on board with that suddenly too, which is good. Everybody needs to be on board with this 3 point for overtime win. It just makes more sense. It would make more games more exciting. It makes the races tighter. Teams are not going to run away with it like everyone says, and the teams that are going to run away with it are essentially running away with it now. We're just faking that they aren't, because if you're 8 points ahead, you're almost running. You're running away with it. Teams that are 8 points ahead in January don't fall out of the playoffs. So, even though it's only 8 points because of this crazy thing. So the reality is, with the 3 points for regulation win, you actually could make up ground on teams. But
what's become annoying is that the way people are describing 500 now, I can't really. It's moderate. Like the Leafs are 10-10-5, or there's other teams in the Eastern Conference that are the record very similar, and they're saying it's a modern day 500. No, it's not. They're 5 games under 500. You're just making it look nicer.
How I describe 500 is 5 times more than not. Leaf fans have turned off the game after their teams have lost this year. That's what it comes down to, regardless of how they've lost. That's 10 times they've turned off the game and they're happy. 15 times they've turned off their game and they've lost. Doesn't matter if they've lost in regulation, overtime, shootout, whatever, they've lost.
But they're entertained.
But they're entertained, and it's just, there's not. So 500 is 500. You have to take the final 2, add them together, and then go against the top. If you are 5-5, you're at 500, but not 10-10-5. And that's the reality to me. And there is no modern day 500 at all. That's crazy. And because the way 500 works is
over 26%. I'm going to be using that in an article. Okay.
Yeah, over 26% of the games have gone to overtime. That's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Now the Hurricanes. Here's another crazy stat for today. Actually, I'll hold the crazy stat up for a second. And say that the Blues have canceled today's morning skate due to a clogged commute in Brooklyn. Did you hear about this? The first time in the Blues history they haven't had a morning skate because the traffic was too bad to get out to Brooklyn to have the morning skate.
Well, where are they staying? They're staying in Manhattan?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because here's the thing. Okay. So, the traffic's going to be there, right? You know it. So, what you need to do is one of 2 things. You either need to stay in Brooklyn, because then the traffic wouldn't matter, or you need to stay on Long Island so you don't have to deal with the city traffic, and you stay on the edge of Long Island going into Brooklyn, and then you're okay. Like if you stay in Garden City, let's say, you're still going to hit traffic, but it's not going to be as bad.
Right.
Or here's the third one. You just take the subway.
Teams can take the subway, the Long Island Expressway, whatever you want, get there.
I mean, it's silly to me that they're using traffic as a reason.
I agree. It is ridiculous, but that's what they're not going. They're not going. They're not going to sit in traffic. They've decided they're just going to hang out. This sounds like Hitchcock just saying he wants a day off to me. That's what
but this wouldn't be a problem for John Tortorella because he's canceled morning skates.
Right. It wouldn't be a problem for him at all. Crazy stat here. The Carolina Hurricanes have won only half the games they lead after 2 periods. That is something that's not even close to another team. Like, you always see that stat, the Flyers are 8-0-2 after leading after 2 periods. The Hurricanes.
I saw it happen against the Rangers. I blame it on their young defense because that's what a young defense will do. There's going to be those sort of hiccups, and the Rangers sort of imposed their will on Carolina, whereas with the Islanders, they're a little bit more of an older group on defense, and they couldn't impose their will. So I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Now, for example, let's throw this out there. The Buffalo Sabres are 29th in this statistic in the NHL, okay? They are 6-0-4 when leading after 2 periods. So they've only one game over true 500, but they have gotten a point out of this. Where the
if you bleed that out through, and I'm not smart enough to do it, if you bleed that out through the 82-game season, that's not a playoff formula.
No. I mean, the Maple Leafs are 27th in this stat. You know, like you've talked about, Mike, before.
This is where you have to look past the stat, because a lot of these things are fool's gold. It makes you feel better as a fan. Oh, look, we're undefeated.
Yeah,
oh, look, we're getting points.
Great, great. You got if you're Toronto, you've received points in 7 of your 13 road games. The problem is that 5 of those games you were winning. I think 4 of them in the third period blew the lead and lost in a shootout or overtime.
Yeah, right.
So that's not a positive stat. You've won 2 games on the road for the entire season. 1 game where your goaltender was playing like the reincarnated Terry Sawchuk, and the other one when you were playing Edmonton, whose defense is worse than yours.
But I could turn that into a positive stat, Mike. I could email that to you in a positive way.
Okay.
I mean, you can. I mean, just you definitely can do it.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, can you tell me, guys, there are 5 teams in the NHL right now.
I'm so bad at this. Go ahead.
Who have not lost, who were completely perfect when leading after 2 periods this year so far. So they haven't gone to overtime. They haven't lost a point in overtime. They may have gone to overtime, but they haven't lost a point at all.
Montreal Canadiens.
Montreal Canadiens are not one of them.
Chicago.
Chicago is one of them. They are 11-0 when leading after 2 periods right now. Yep.
Columbus
is not one of them.
You know what? I'm not sure if there is one loss or not. I'm going to risk the New York Rangers.
They have 1 loss. They're 13, and they're not one of them.
Okay. I thought the one. Yeah.
13-1 after leading after 2 periods. So
St. Louis
is not one of them. These are like Montreal is.
It's just I never get this right.
I know this is
the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yes, right. Yes, the Winnipeg Jets are 9-0-0. So yes.
Well, you can't tell me the Atlanta Thrashers have lost.
The Thrashers are the right answer. Sorry, because the Winnipeg Jets, were the Thrashers franchise, the Winnipeg Jets are 9-0-0 and leading after 2 periods. So yes, the Thrashers are perfect. And
hold that one out, Russ.
The other teams are Chicago. Oh, you talked about Chicago. Pittsburgh's 8-0-0. Chicago's 11-0-0. Anaheim is 10-0-0. That's surprising to me.
That is surprising.
And Boston is 12-0-0. Boston 12-0-0 when leading after 2 periods. That's a team that's not even that good right now. I mean, they're half decent, but their record is 15-10-0. And 2. So 15-10-2. So 15-10-2 altogether. But they're 12-0 when leading after 2 periods. So Boston has really. That's a team, that they're either going to be. They should just end the games after 2 periods, essentially, because when they're losing after 2 periods, they're 2-12, according to this. So there you have it.
All right. So big question.
Yes.
Not on our script, but Matt Murray goes tonight. If he doesn't have a good game, is Matt Murray the goalie the next game, or do they go back to Fleury again for a couple more in a row?
Well, Fleury's last game was pretty bad. I think it was the one against Ottawa where he gave up. I think it was 4 goals. And I know that a lot of the insiders are saying that the Penguins are trying to step up the effort to trade Fleury now because a couple more games like that and teams might not be willing to pay the price. I mean, to me, I think you have to.
I think teams know what Marc-Andre Fleury is.
Yeah, I think they know.
So do I. But
I know what you're saying, but it's. I think that with goalies, you really can't look at it that way. You have to look at if a goalie gets into a new situation,
But we know how general managers are. They're going to use what's happened recently and say, okay, well, he's a great goaltender. He's won a Stanley Cup, but he's lost the last 3 in a row, and he's given up 4 more goals.
So was that just to showcase those 3 games, and now Murray's going to play most of them, or?
I would think they got to get Murray more work. I mean,
I don't think they have any intention of trading Marc-Andre Fleury this year.
Yeah, so, I don't think they do either.
So I think they're going to play who they think is going to be better for them right now. I think they got to get Murray on track. I think that's what they have to do. If I'm them, I'd get Murray a bunch.
Is Murray off track? I mean, he really has.
No, but he has good numbers, but he needs to play a lot, and you have to see what you got, and you have to get him kind of in the groove, I guess, more than on track.
Delicate balance here. I mean, if you want to maintain the value of Fleury, I mean, okay, I'm not 100% sure they're not going to trade him before the deadline. Maybe they'll keep him. You know, Jim Rutherford's got to know whether he can get him to waive the no move clause before the expansion draft, because you risk losing Murray in the expansion draft if he doesn't.
But that's fine. You want to lose. You're gonna hold Murray. You're gonna leave. You can hold Murray, right, and leave Fleury.
No, if
you can't. Right. I'm sorry. The other way around. Yes.
No movement clause. They've got to know for sure.
Right.
Will you wait or not? And if they don't know, then you say, okay, well, pick a team that you want to be traded to, because we need to clear this space.
Right.
I mean, that's a dilemma here for Rutherford. I mean, not that things are going to get acrimonious there, but I mean, Murray is the guy that helped them win a Stanley Cup. He's the 21-year-old. He's the guy that they should be keeping for the future. I mean, maybe they'll trade Murray. I don't know. I don't think that's the way that they should go.
No. They'll find some way to avoid that. I mean, Rutherford's really good at this kind of thing, so he's going to find a way to make this happen. That's why, he's this. If there's one GM in the league who's going to be able to figure out a way around this, it'll be him. I do believe that, but I think that I don't think it's going to be this year, and it could be right after the season, but I think they're a Stanley Cup defender. They're going to go with two goalies. They're going to keep two goalies.
I mean, the only way that I see around this, if Fleury wants to stay in Pittsburgh and they want to keep Murray, is that Rutherford is going to have to go to George McPhee before the expansion draft and say, "I'll give you Derek Pouliot if you don't take Matt Murray." Sweeten the pot so he will overlook somebody they clearly want to keep. That's the only way I can.
It feels like risk, like I'll defend.
It does feel like risk.
Western Russia.
Yeah.
For you, because it feels like he could say that, but still could take Murray. Like that's not going to be legally written out. I mean, that's not legally going to be written anywhere.
All right, so I have a question for you guys, and
you're right, Mike. I mean, I get what you're saying,
and then I'll answer it. I want you to get something wrong for a change, Jack.
Go ahead.
So tonight's game, Connor McDavid will play for the first time against the Flyers in Philly. Will he get booed every time he touches the puck, or is there not any acrimony yet between him and the fans, so that won't occur?
There is no acrimony between him and the fans. That will not occur.
Yeah. Okay.
Because Connor McDavid is not that. He doesn't have
Is he going to get booed when they announce his name?
No. I mean, there'll be. Of course, there will be a couple people in section 206 and row 15 that will boo him, right? Okay. But for the most part, no, he's not. It's not going to be resounding. People are going to be interested. I mean, tonight's the Flyers goaltender night tonight. Right, that they're doing for their part of their history.
Oh, I don't even know. Is it?
Yeah, tonight's goaltender nights. They're paying tribute to Bernie Perron, Pete Peters, Ron Hextall.
Is Pete Peters actually going to be there?
Yeah, Pelly Lindbergh's fiance, Pelly Lindbergh's ex-fiance is going to be there. So yeah, it's a whole big thing. So yeah, I don't think that, and I don't think that anything's going to lead to an acrimonious booing of Connor McDavid. I just think that it's not. I don't think they booed Eichel very much when he was there last year.
But they did. They started to boo him as the game went on.
Okay.
Crosby, it took maybe 5 minutes of his first game, and they started booing him every time after that first couple shifts.
But he was a Penguin right off the bat. So
right.
The fact, if you're a Penguin, then you've got 9/10 of the way to getting booed.
So the Flyers don't care that
I don't think the people care about the Oilers.
You don't care that the Oilers beat them in the Stanley Cup. That's all water under the bridge. They like the Oilers now.
Yeah, you have to be able to
Flyers fans will boo. They'll boo Milan Lucic because they know him.
Well, Lucic is a no-brainer, but I think the McDavid one is an interesting one.
It is interesting.
I think after a couple shifts, he'll get booed every time he touches the puck.
Tonight's game is also the debut of Dylan Simpson, former North Dakota. He played under Dave Hackstall and the son of Hockey Night in Canada's Craig Simpson.
Yeah, he's a Facebook friend. I interviewed him when he was in the Frozen Four. He's a good kid. He's a good player. It'll be interesting to see how he does. I think he has a chance to be just about an everyday player in the NHL. So I'll be watching him closely.
Who do you think he's going to be playing with tonight, though?
That's a good question.
Darnell Nurse is out. So, I mean, he could play with a guy like Clefbaum. He could play with, I mean,
they're probably going to put him with somebody like Clefbaum. I think that makes sense.
I mean, Clefbaum and Larson have been the pairing, so he probably plays on the bottom or the second pairing. I don't know who would be, but
it's funny. I've seen a couple times when Hackstall's run into his old players in the hallways down stuff. That's really interesting. Like obviously the most famous one is Jonathan Taves, right? So Hackstall and Taves have always will talk when Taves is in town, and Taves really honestly has so much respect for Hackstall. It's obvious. So it's a big deal, and Hackstall is the same way. So yeah, that's a big one. So for Flyers fans, get down there a night early for the goaltender celebration.
Is Roman Czechmana going to be there tonight?
Not. There was a lot of controversy about that, actually. People on Twitter were going nuts about that.
But is Bob Froese?
Bob Froese is a pastor.
Nor will Michael Layton be there. The most recent Stanley Cup finalist, Brian Boucher will be, because he still works for the team.
He's working, like he just comes out of the booth.
He's working for it anyway. Yeah.
Wait, Wayne Stevenson?
No, Wayne Stevenson. Who I don't think is alive, Mike.
Oh,
if I remember
right. Here's the thing about Bob Froese. People on the Rangers side have asked about, people on the Rangers side have asked about Froese, and people on the Flyers side, right? Because he played for both. He is a pastor in upstate New York somewhere.
He is, and still.
What about the Beezer?
Yeah, no, I don't think Beezer's going to be there. He's such a great guy. I love John Brooks, one of my favorite people. But no, I don't think he's going to be there, and not that I know of, at least. So I heard that just the Peters, Hextall, Perrant,
Brizgalov.
No, Brizgalov, right? I mean, he
does.
The Flyers have had like how many goalies in the last 20 years that they could? I mean, they could literally. There's not enough room on the ice.
Sean Burke's still a goalie coach. Is that his out?
Bunny LaRock, Bunny LaRock.
What about Sean Burke? He loved it in Philly.
Sean Burke, yeah, that was a good time too. Great endings there. All those ended. Not a lot of the goalies left Philly in a really good place. It was most goalies have left Philly in a bad place.
Sean Burke didn't even wait for a game to end in a bad place. He was in the locker room saying, "I don't like it. I'm away from my family. I'm not coming back next year." And the season wasn't even over yet.
I know.
All of a sudden, two strangers walk on the ice, and it ends up being Doug Favell and Rick St. Croix.
And Taro Niittymaki and
is Niittymaki going to be there?
No, he's not going to be there.
Well, he's a scout for them, right? He can't just come in for the game.
He could do that. I guess he could be, but he was not. They're talking about more of the famous goalies. I think they're trying to go, along the lines of goalies who. But Layton did take him to a Stanley Cup final. I was thinking about that. Like that's something that.
But he's working, man. He's
still playing, right?
Yeah.
He did take him to a Stanley Cup final. There's no Niittymaki or no Tommy Soderstrom.
Wow.
I mean, there have been the list of Flyers goalies is unbelievably long.
It's vast.
Marty Biron.
Where's Marty? He's probably working. He's working.
He should be down there, but he's not there either. Robert Esch is not going to be there. Yeah, so we can go through these in my head of the Flyers goalies.
Eschy's not going to be there?
Nope.
I used to like getting quotes from Eschy.
Esch was really nice to me. He used to talk to me all the time.
Yeah, he used to talk to me all the time too.
Esch is a good guy.
He is.
But for sure. Anyway, so get down there tonight, and you too.
What is the red light, Eck? It's driving us crazy. What is the damn red light that keeps going off?
I know. I set up. It's
Is it the Kenny Rogers chicken? What is it?
That thing there.
The cops are there. The cops.
I'm running a brothel. Don't you know that? It's like it's all right. Just when someone comes in, that light goes off. That's all.
And this is the perfect first show for our tune-in radio appearance.
Right.
We're running a brothel.
Running a brothel. Welcome to the brothel at hockeybuzz.com.
And we know who the main customer is. No, just kidding.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow. See you then.